Hello and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping right into the rich antiquity of ancient Tamil literature. We're going to deconstruct a truly breathtaking passage from the great epic, the Silapitakaram. We're looking at a moment of profound reverence, Kovalan praising the radiant beauty of his bride, Kannagi. But I want to be clear right off the bat. This is no ordinary romantic poetry. Through a deeply researched scholarly lens, we'll explore exactly how this ancient text takes human features and literally elevates them into instruments of cosmic power. Listen to the original Tamil opening of this verse. Kuzavi tingal imayavara etta, which translates beautifully to the crescent moon praised by the immortals. Immediately, the poet Ilango Adigal establishes this tone of absolute veneration. Kovalan isn't merely looking at his wife here, he is gazing upon a figure of staggering, otherworldly magnitude. The language is so elevated, setting up a historical and cultural context where human beauty intersects directly with the divine. The traditional concept of feminine beauty in poetry often leans heavily towards fragility, right? Flowers, soft breezes, delicate jewels, things like that. But the Silapitakaram completely subverts that expectation. In the specific text we're deconstructing today, Kovalan doesn't just praise Kannagi's physical features, he actually elevates them into artifacts of divine weaponry. Her beauty is presented as a forceful, active power that commands the gods themselves. Moving to our next section, the divine blueprint. Let's see how the poet maps this out. Take a look at this matrix. It lays out a truly stunning methodology of divine surrender. We have the Great One, Shiva, the Formless One, Kamadeva, the King of Gods, Indra, and the six-faced one, Murugan. Each of them surrenders their absolute most prized possession, the moon, a bow, divine protection, and a spear, to form Kannagi's forehead, eyebrows, waist, and eyes. Scholars assert with high confidence that this text relies heavily on these classical mythological references to build an awe-inspiring, frankly, almost intimidating image of Kannagi right from the very beginning of the epic. Section next, the crescent moon forehead. Let's break down the first of these four mythological metaphors. The text uses the phrase Perion Taruka, which means, may the Great One give. Now the Great One, Shiva, wears the crescent moon in his matted hair, an object worshipped even by the immortals. But in Kovalan's eyes, Shiva hasn't just lent this moon to Kannagi, he has completely surrendered his own cosmic ornament to form her radiant, perfectly curved forehead. So the literal gift of the gods transforms into this profound poetic meaning, where mortality momentarily eclipses divinity. It's absolutely fascinating. Crucially, though, this crescent moon is no longer just some celestial body. The source text actually asserts it is a rare crown, and more importantly, that it's a rightful inheritance for Kannagi, purely by her right of birth. Based on linguistic analysis, it is highly evident that this interpretation shows the Great One making a supreme concession. The ultimate symbol of divine radiance is willingly yielded to a mortal woman, completely establishing her supreme purity and grace. Up next, Kamadeva's sugarcane bow. We descend now to the eyebrows. So the original text refers to Ruvalalan, translating to the Formless One. This is Kamadeva, the invisible god of love. According to the text, there's a distinct ancient tradition here. When a warrior proves themselves supreme in battle, they are gifted extraordinary weapons by the gods. Well, the Formless One, whose primary weapon is this great, formidable sugarcane bow, clearly recognizes a superior conqueror in Kannagi. And this brilliantly illustrates the poetic genius of Ilango Adigal. The text states that Kamadeva takes his single, massive weapon of romantic conquest, that great sugarcane bow, and gives it to her. But a face requires two eyebrows. So conceptually, that singular bow is snapped right in half to form her dual, dark, striking arches. Think about the cultural meaning here for a second. Kovalan views himself as the conquered enemy on the battlefield of love, and Kannagi's eyebrows are the very weapons that have utterly defeated him. Moving on to Indra's weapon as waist. The text now moves away from the face to invoke the king of the gods. The verse provides a highly specific rationale here. It says, since she appeared before the immortal nectar, the king of gods gave his divine protection. In Hindu mythology, the immortal nectar, Amrita, was churned from the cosmic ocean, and the poet flatly claims that Kannagi's appearance and beauty predate or even rival that ultimate elixir of immortality. Because of this unparalleled status, the king of gods, Indra, felt absolutely compelled to gift her his divine protection. Now, the term used is Diva Kawal, meaning divine protection or weapon. Classical Tamil commentaries very frequently interpret this as the Vajra or the thunderbolt. There's a wholly supported scholarly consensus that classical Tamil poetry often compares a woman's slender waist to lightning, something brilliantly blinding yet imperceptibly narrow. To carry her divine form, her waist quite literally requires the immense strength of Indra's own protective weapon.
Our next section, Murugan's spear as eyes. We've arrived at the final, and definitely the most dramatic comparison.
The text invokes Arumukha Oruwan, the six-faced god. This is Murugan, the highly revered ancient Tamil god of war and victory. Now the text notes he possesses a singular, bright, and beautiful spear, the Vel. But the poet points out a really fascinating paradox here. Murugan parts with this weapon and gives it to Kannagi, seemingly without a proper reason. Because unlike the battlefield where a spear is used purely for destruction, Kannagi has absolutely no nature for such violence. Yet she is still handed the ultimate weapon of war. Look at the poetic transformation detailed here. Just as the sugarcane bough was divided, the one long blinding spear is split to become her two eyes. But the text describes these eyes as red-cornered and rain-cool. It's a stunning juxtaposition, isn't it? They are piercing and devastating like a spear, evidenced by the red corners, a classic mark of sharp beauty in Tamil aesthetics, yet they are simultaneously rain-cool, brimming with deep compassion and grace. It's this flawless balance of fierce power and gentle mercy. Let's look at the power of poetics. We need to step back and synthesize these metaphors to really grasp the overarching meaning. And this brings us to a genuinely pivotal question, one you should absolutely take away from this explainer today. Why? Why did the author, writing thousands of years ago, choose to describe a woman's beauty almost entirely through the martial imagery of divine weapons and gods of war? It is a remarkably bold, aggressive aesthetic choice that practically begs for deeper scholarly interpretation. Looking at this summary, the implied power is just staggering. Cosmic radiance, romantic conquest, imperceptible strength, piercing devastation. This martial vocabulary is definitely not accidental. Several scholarly interpretations suggest with high confidence that this intense, weaponized description of her beauty subtly foreshadows her destiny. Kannagi isn't destined to remain a quiet, passive bride. She will eventually transform into a terrifyingly powerful goddess of justice who literally burns down a city to avenge her husband. Her beauty here is the very first hint of her latent, destructive power. Let's lock in the key findings from our analysis. First, beauty is treated as an active, dominating force, not just some passive object to be admired. Second, there is total divine endorsement. The greatest gods of the cosmos willingly surrender their primary assets to her, fully acknowledging her supremacy. Finally, and most importantly for our historical context, this highlights the ancient Tamil concept of Anuangu. Anuangu represents a sacred, fierce, and sometimes dangerous feminine power that resides within chaste women. Kovalan isn't just seeing a pretty face, he's witnessing the terrifying, awe-inspiring manifestation of Anuangu. Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought to chew on. When we look at ancient texts like the Silapathakaram, we're kind of forced to redefine our modern concepts. Does true beauty lie merely in aesthetic perfection, some superficial symmetry? Or does it actually reside in the devastating, divine power it wields over the beholder? Thank you so much for joining me in deconstructing this masterpiece. It truly makes you wonder what other ancient verses are hiding cosmic power in plain sight.